When Kyoshi's long life finally came to an end, the next avatar was born, Roku, the noble son of the Fire Nation. Growing up alongside his best friend and heir to the throne, Sozin, Roku was largely untroubled until he emerged as the Avatar at the age of 16. He trained constantly, even during Sozin's years as Fire Lord, and yet the two remained as close as brothers. They reunited, reconnected, and when the time came for Roku to marry, it was Sozin who helped as best man. But Sozin's ambitions grew more and more with each passing year. No matter how benevolent Sozin claimed his intentions were, he revealed his plans to conquer the world to a horrified Roku. The two separated, estranged for decades. When the volcano next to Roku's island home erupted, Sozin rushed to his friend's aid, only to let him die in ashes, after realizing that Roku's death would allow him to realize his vision of world-spanning rule. The years between Roku's death and Sozin's destruction of the Airbenders were, from Aang's perspective, peaceful years. An avid student, he mastered airbending with enthusiasm and an innovative spirit, culminating years of work with the invention of the air scooter. Raised by the monk Gyatso, living in harmony with his flying bison, playing games with his friends. These were gentle days, which ended cruelly when the temple elders told Aang, fearing global unrest, of his avatar destiny. Overwhelmed, Aang opened the bison with App, only to be thrown into the middle of a violent storm. Terrified, Aang took avatar form and trapped himself and Appa inside a gigantic iceberg. Sorry to interrupt the story here. In this video, I will tell the whole story of the last Airbender avatar. In the next episodes, I plan to give a different perspective by touching on all the unknown stories. Avatar has a special place in me because it is the cartoon of our childhood. I am sure that there is a 25-year-old individual among you who loves this cartoon. Because I was only 12 years old when it came out. There are many stories and subtexts about the cartoon. Don't forget to come to my Discord server for your theory to appear in the next video. Just as a reward for this effort, you can like the video, express your opinions about this cartoon series in the comments, and subscribe to my channel if you are not subscribed yet. Join members will have exclusive access to the first video without having to wait. Don't forget to come to my Discord server for chat and theories, and welcome to my channel and video. Aang was missing for all these years, so when the Fire Nation harnessed the power of the Great Comet to make a devastating first strike in the 100 Years' War, there was no avatar to face the Fire Lord Sozin, later renamed Sozin's Comet. The genocide of the Air Nation was too great. Knowing that they were the nation from which the current avatar was born, Sozin wiped them out completely, a rage that would galvanize the Earth Kingdom and the Water Tribes against the Fire Nation. Yet despite all this slaughter, the original goal remained great. Sozin would write years later of his inability to capture the avatar, which he knew was hiding out there somewhere. Aang went on to spend 100 years in the ice, leaving the world without an avatar when it needed one most. Azzulan, the Fire Lord, succeeded Sozin and continued his campaign of conquest with bloodthirsty zeal. The Southern Water Tribe was devastated during these years, suffering an attack that destroyed their central city, kidnapped their waterbenders, and led to decades of violent raids that would eventually cost the lives of Kia, Katara, and Sokka's mother. The Fire Nation's attempts to destroy the Earth Kingdom went less smoothly. While vast swaths of the nation were indeed destroyed, subjugated, and brought under Fire Nation control, the legendary capital Ba Sing Se resisted capture. General Iroh, Crown Prince of the Fire Nation, had seen a vision in his youth that seemed to bode well. He himself would eventually conquer Ba Sing Se. Empowered by this prophecy and at the height of his legendary talent, he surrounded the city's outermost wall with the full might of the Fire Nation army behind him. Although the forces of the Earth Kingdom fought mightily, the outermost wall of Ba Sing Se was finally breached. It was hailed as a tremendous victory until General Iroh received news that his son had died in battle. Devastated, Iroh took stock of his battered army, their poor morale, and his own demoralization. After 600 days, the siege ended, the Fire Nation retreated, and Ba Sing Se remained unconquered. In the midst of this tragedy, Iroh's younger brother Ozai sensed an opportunity to advance his own position. Since Iroh had returned to the Fire Nation in disgrace and had no heir, he suggested that their father, the Fire Lord Azulon, designate him as heir to the throne. Azulon was enraged and ordered Ozai to kill his firstborn son Zuko as penance. In a desperate attempt to save her son, Ursa, Zuko's mother and Ozai's wife, conspired with her husband and concocted a poison that killed Azulon in his sleep. Ozai was crowned Fire Lord, but Ursa was banished, leaving Zuko without a protector. Within a few years, Fire Lord Ozai would punish his son for speaking out of turn in the war room by confronting him in a public duel, permanently scarring his face and sending him to what he believed was a fruitless quest for the Avatar alongside his uncle Iroh. Ozai's power was consolidated, and anyone who threatened his rule was expelled. When Aang finally awoke from his centuries-old slumber, he was awakened not by the Fire Nation forces, so eager to bring him out of hiding, but by Katara, a girl practicing the waterbending her mother had died practicing to protect her from the Fire Nation's claws. Aang arrived in a completely different world from the one he had left, but still found himself crushed by responsibility. When Katara showed him a captured Fire Nation ship that had been shot down decades ago by waterbenders who would be kidnapped in retaliation, Aang jerked in surprise. Hadn't it only been on ice for a week? A month at most, Katara concluded in disbelief. Aang had been effectively dead to the world for 100 years. The four nations were in turmoil, and his absence was partly at fault. And so began Avatar, the last Airbender began. Aang would go on to learn of the destruction of his people, the dominance of the Fire Nation, and the long, brutal reach of war to even the most remote places. It wasn't long before Zuko, Prince of the Fire Nation, learned of the Avatar's existence. Aang surrendered himself to Zuko to protect the Southern Water Tribe, but Katara and Sokka went to his rescue, along with Appa, Aang's Sky Bison, to save the Avatar. After a narrow escape, the trio headed north and first took Aang to the Southern Air Temple and made him recognize the dark truth that he was the last Airbender. On the winter solstice, Aang received a message from Avatar Roku, a previous incarnation of himself. Aang is told that he must learn all four elements and become a master of bending until the comet Sozin returns. The comet would make Fire Lord Ozai's firebending powers very powerful and give him the final advantage he needed to win the war. Suddenly, things looked much more dire. As Team Avatar found their way to the Northern Water Tribe, it became clear that Admiral Zhao of the Fire Nation was not far behind. Not long after Aang's waterbending training, the Fire Nation's armada began a siege. But Zhao's true intention was not to destroy the Northern Water Tribe, but to kill the moon spirit Tui, whose physical form was a koi fish in a pond high above the city. While the Avatar was distracted, Zhao captured and killed Tui, causing a lunar eclipse that caused all waterbenders to lose their powers. In order to drive out the Fire Nation, Aang entered the Avatar state and merged with the ocean spirit La to become the giant spirit fish Koizilla. Here, Aang finally completed his waterbending training. After the conflict ended, it was revealed that Yue, the princess of the Northern Water Tribe, had been saved by the moon spirit when she was a baby. Returning the favor, Yue sacrifices herself to give life to the moon spirit and also becomes one with it. In the second leg of Aang's journey to become the Avatar, he and his friends traveled to Omashu in search of King Bumi, but instead found a very different earthbending instructor. On their way to the city of the Southwest Earth Kingdom, they learned more about the Avatar state. Namely, that if Aang died while in the Avatar state, his reincarnation cycle would end. When they arrived, they found Bumi captured by Azula, Zuko's sister. After being rescued, Bumi refused to teach Aang and instead told him to find a teacher who waits and listens before attacking. That teacher became Toph Beifong, a blind earthbender with incredible daredevil-like skills. Born into a wealthy family, Toph's abilities were hindered by his overprotective parents. Realizing they would never change, Toph left his family behind to join Team Avatar and teach Aang the secrets of the world. Aang and Team Avatar were pursued by Azula and her team of firebenders until they reached Wan Shitong's library in the Si Wong Desert. Here, Sokka found a book that told him about an upcoming solar eclipse that could be an opportunity to attack the Fire Nation. Before he could act on it, Appa was captured and Aang followed the captives on a road that led Team Avatar to Ba Sing Se, the capital of the Earth Kingdom. At the time, the city was ruled in the shadows by Longfang and his secret police, Dai Li, while the king was unaware of the war outside. When Aang arrived, Ba Sing Se was supposedly a utopia free of war, but beneath the surface, it was ruled like a tyrannical police state. Team Avatar exposed Longfeng and sent him to prison, which secretly played a role in Azula's master plan. By that time, the city had been overrun and soon Azula and the Fire Nation arrived. During Ba Sing Se's coup, the Avatar team went head-to-head with Azula. To warn the king of the coup, Sokka and Toph felt trying to fight Azula. In the desperation of battle, Aang decided that the only way to win was to enter Avatar form, choosing to leave behind his earthly attachment to Katara. But once transformed, he was struck by Azula's lightning and mortally wounded from the battle. It looked like Aang was going to die, and worse, the Avatar cycle would be broken. Katara couldn't let that happen, and she had a water on her arm. The healing power of the spirit oasis water given to her at the Northern Water Temple. Katara used the water to revive Aang and prevented centuries of Avatar knowledge from being lost. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Fans agree that the show's third season is the best yet. One of the most important reasons for this is Zuko's path to redemption. At the end of their time in Ba Sing Se, his uncle Iroh was imprisoned and Zuko returned as a hero. Believing the Avatar dead, Azula brought him to the home of the Fire Nation. Still trying to live his life, Zuko became increasingly convinced that Aang was somehow still alive. and so he hired an assassin to find the Avatar. He later found out that Avatar Roku's mother was his grandfather, and this completely blew his mind. In Ba Sing Se, Zuko gained some mercy when he was imprisoned along with Katara, but this knowledge was what really prepared him for his redemptive return. After sitting as his father's right-hand man at a war meeting, Zuko realized that his dreams of his life living up to his father's expectations were no longer valid. In a revealing conversation with Ozai, Zuko made his alliances clear and his father attacked him. After escaping, Zuko went to track down Aang in the Western Air Temple. After initial skirmishes, the group skeptically accepted him as Aang's teacher. In the end, he proved to be Aang's greatest teacher and one of his best friends. Although Aang didn't feel fully prepared for the arrival of the Sozin comet, the Fire Nation was ready. All hope seemed lost, during which time Aang met a lion turtle who taught him one last avatar technique, the secrets of energy bending. A duel with the Fire Lord, Ozai took almost everything from Aang, and in the end he was almost defeated. When he was forced into avatar form by Ozai's attack, he did not kill the Emperor. Instead, Aang used his newfound energy bending skills to take Ozai's bending powers from him and defeated the villain alive but completely. While Aang fought, Ozai, Katara, and Zuko teamed up to take down Azula. In an attempt to kill Katara, Azula suffered a mental break when her lightning bolt was blocked by her own brother. Zuko nearly died when he was shot, but survived and was eventually appointed the title and position of Fire Lord Zuko. Thus, the 100 Years' War ended and Avatar Aang brought the first vigil of peace the world had seen in some time. Triumphant in this way, Aang saved the world and became one of the most important avatars in history. His 100-year absence may have destabilized the world as never before, but in his victory over Ozai, he restored it in legendary style. This whole story was the story of the last Airbender, the lost avatar. But side stories, unknowns and more will be revealed in the next videos. I'll also be sharing stories like Avatar Korra and Before Aang, so stay tuned. Well friends, that's the story, and that's where we end. If you have watched this far, it means you liked the video. You can subscribe to my channel, express your opinions in the comments, or support us by liking the video. See you in the next video. Goodbye.